Hey y'all, it's Bailey with Reclaim Grace, and I am so happy you clicked on this video. Today I have three awesome projects finished, and they are spring ready, vintage vibes. I love how all of them came out. I'm using a few more designs from the new spring release by IOD. And I also have the release back in stock on my website if you missed out on the first round. Y'all let me know which project is your favorite, and we're going to get started right now. Hey friends, we're going to get started with our first project, which is this cute little MDF cabinet. I picked this piece up from where I have a vendor booth at Coppermill Mercantile. The whole booth was 50% off, so I got a really good deal on this piece. I paid $15, and these little cabbies can be quite expensive, so I was super excited when I found this in one of my fellow booth neighbors. So let's get started on the project. This corner had a little bit of damage to it, and since this is MDF material, I need to get this glued back up and then sealed up. So I'm going to knock off two birds with one stone and use my super glue with my accelerating spray. This is going to just tighten that corner back up and make sure there's no more peeling. I love this accelerating spray because once I get it clamped, it will dry in a matter of seconds. And now let's sand. I'm just going to scuff sand the entire piece and then really focus on the area I just used that super glue on and smooth that back out. I really like how that super glue is sandable as well, but here we're just creating some micro texture so our next paint will have something to adhere to. Next, let's clean. I'm going to use a little bit of Windex on a shop towel instead of spraying it directly on the piece. Since I have a little bit of exposed MDF, I do not want anything to swell. So I'm just going to very carefully come in and just wipe off any sand and dust. Other than that, the piece is in a pretty clean condition. A little bit more prep to go. I was going to use some tape to tape up these little tin panels, but they knocked out very easily. They're just held in with four little tiny nail tacks on the back side. So I'm going to tap those out, get rid of the little tack nails, and we'll put them back in a later step. I am envisioning this piece to be crackly and chippy, so the best way to do that over wood and MDF is to use a couple layers of shellac. This is a clear shellac primer. It is a little pricey in the spray can, so you can always brush it on as well. But this is my biggest tip for coming in with milk paint. So we're going to do 2 coats on this entire piece, inside and out. I did decide not to paint the inside of the piece when it came to the milk paint, but I went ahead and sealed it up with the shellac either way. So, surprise, surprise, we're using my favorite green combination, which is olive and artichoke. This is equal parts of both Sweet Pickins milk paint. I did 3 scoops of olive, 3 scoops of artichoke with 5 scoops of water, just so my mixture would be a little thicker than normal. And here is the consistency that I really like to work with. I let the milk paint sit up for about 5-10 minutes, and now it has thickened up just perfectly, and we're going to start painting. And if you're needing some milk paint or some IOD items, the website is now fully stocked with the Sweet Pickins milk paint line and the new IOD spring release. So head over there and grab what you need because y'all, it is just so hard to keep up with y'all. I sell out pretty quickly and that is just nothing to complain about. I am so thankful for your support. I did 2 coats on this little cubby cabinet and it was the perfect coverage. And y'all, we got what we wanted. We got some good crackle, but we got a lot of chippiness. It tended to be in the areas I couldn't really get my electric sander to, like along the edges of the doors themselves. But that is a-okay. Before we do anything else, I'm going to come in with a matte spray paint and just seal up the milk paint to hopefully keep some of the chippiness so it all doesn't just come chipping off. So I just did 1 light coat of this and then I let it dry for a couple hours. And now it's time to sand. I really like a distressed piece, so I'm going to focus my sandpaper on the edges, corners, and get rid of the flaking paint. Some of on the door came chipping off. You can really see along that top underneath edge. We had a lot of chippiness up there, but it is fine. I'm going for aged. I'm going for chippy, so that is exactly what we got. I am going to go ahead and sand over the entire piece just to smooth things out before coming in and sealing this piece up one more good time with some Fusion's Agent Wax. I just love, love, love the way this looks over this paint combination. You just brush it on and then wipe off any excess. And our last step is to add those little tin panels back in. I'm going to very carefully hold it with my needle nose pliers and then tap it in with my hammer. I decided to put some staples on the corners just because I could not get those tiny brad nails back in on the corners, and this was fine as well. I could have used the stapler alone and it would have been fine. Other than that, this project is done and I think this is awesome. Y'all already know I love this green color and it is just perfect on this cabinet. Look at the age, look at the crackle, look at that chippiness. It is gorgeous. I think I'm going to price this for around $79. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this one. And our next project are these ceramic vintage canisters. They're a made in USA piece, and I had them in my booth. They sat on a Lazy Susan, but of course it's missing the 4th canister. So I put that on the tag when I tried to resell them, but it has sat in there for a while. So I grabbed them back out and we're going to do something a little different with them. I grabbed the new tulips mold by IOD and we're going to be adding some castings to the front of these canisters. So first I'm going to dust my mold with a little bit of cornstarch in all the designs I plan on making. Knock off any excess cornstarch. And then we're going to warm up some IOD air dry clay in our hands and then start pressing it into the mold using my thumbs and fingers to scrape off the excess clay, using that micro rim to get a nice flat back. And then I'm just going to flex the mold, flip it over, and then let gravity do the work, peel that mold away from the casting, and they fall right out. And these tulips, They are a popular one. I think they are so precious. We're going to do several more castings because we're going to be filling up all 3 canisters with these. I figured out my placement on the first canister, and y'all, if I I don't know why I do this to myself, but I am almost out of glue. And I feel like the best glue to use in this situation is Titebond Quick and Thick. And man, I was scraping the bottom of this barrel. So I'm going to use a paintbrush to spread that glue along the back of our castings, working it all the way to the edges, but try not to put too much glue because then you're going to have to worry about a lot of cleanup. Now, I can tell myself that every single time, and I still put too much glue up. So, too much glue on the back of it. So, I like to come in with a paintbrush and a baby wipe immediately and clean up the glue squeeze out. Make sure you're taking your time whenever you're pressing your castings to the canister. You want to make sure all the edges are down and making good contact. Press well, but press gently so you don't mess up the details of your casting. I'm going to move on to our next canister and do the same exact thing, just with a little bit different of a look. I played around and did 3 different looks total. I taped them up and let them sit for 24 hours just so they would not slide around on me, because that has happened. Always tape up when you're working on a ceramic piece, adding castings to a ceramic piece, because they will slide on you. But here is my layout for all 3 pieces, and now let's move on to some paint. Here I have a little Dixie cup of salt wash, and then I have the Alchemy Fusion paint line in the color Clay. I'm going to do 50% salt wash with 50% paint, mix that together well, and I'm looking for a thick textured mixture. This will work great when you're trying to make the casting and the ceramic look like one piece. This will fill in any gaps along the edge of your casting where it might have lifted up during the drying process, or you might didn't press it down well enough. Whatever the situation may be, make sure you shove this mixture in all the cracks you see. I'm going to pounce my paintbrush up and down on the slick surface of the ceramic canister, but when it comes to painting the actual casting, I'm not going to pounce. I'm just going to work that paint into all the little details and then do the whole canister. I'm going to leave the inside alone. I'm just doing the exterior. I did 1 coat of paint with the thickening textured paint on all 3 canisters, and then I came in and did a 2nd coat with just the regular clay paint to get full coverage. I let those dry well. I just used my heat gun, and now we need to seal up this layer. It is important to be very gentle when you're clear coating this. Since we're on ceramic and we didn't let it cure properly, it will start pulling up the paint if you're a little too rough, like it happened right there. So just be very gentle and just do 1 even coat on all 3 canisters. This is a matte polyacrylic clear coat. And here is when the magic happens. We have our canisters done. You can see where it kind of pulled up a little bit of that clay paint, but that's fine. We're going for aged as usual. I have some chalk paint. It's the Alchemy line in just a white color. This is a kind of cream color. I'm going to mist one side of my canister and then come in with a thin layer of paint. Using a smaller paintbrush so I can get into all the details, I'm going to paint a light layer of this white oak over just this one section. Once I get that painted, I'm going to immediately come in with my mister bottle and heavily mist that section we just painted. And then I'm going to come in with a blue shop towel and start dabbing some paint off. This is going to create like a little concrete look, kind of drippy paint, been sitting in the garden for years kind of vibe. And I just love how it brings out all the details in our castings. Once this process was good and dry, I did take them outside and spray them with a couple layers of a matte sealer just to seal up that white paint. Other than that, this project is done. I wonder if anyone is mad at me for painting over these vintage canisters. I think it's a good move. I love how they came out. It's gorgeous. I really think you could put plants in these if you throw some rocks at the bottom of the ceramic inside, maybe some succulents, maybe some tulips. Y'all let me know what y'all would do with them, but they are cute holding some wooden utensils as well. I think I'm going to price these individually for maybe $17 to $23 a piece. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this project. And we're moving on to our next set of projects, which are these thrifted frames I picked up from Salvation Army for $149 a piece, but I believe Blue Tag was 25% off that day. As you can see, there was velvet details along the edge of the frame, which I really liked. But let's start by getting this artwork out. And I'm going to use a little flat chisel here to pull up those staples so I can get in and remove that backing piece, remove the artwork, and I'm going to set the glass to the side and get it cleaned because I am going to be reusing it for this project. I loved the age of this paper, so I'm going to put this in my stash. I might can use this side for another project. I wanted to use it for this project, but the other frame, the back side was written on, so I had to change my mind and go with a different route. But here on the other frame, you can see it was like some dirt or something on the velvet, so I was trying to clean it and I messed it up, and I was so mad at myself. I don't know how to clean velvet without messing it up. I really just don't think there is a way. But as soon as you put something wet on it, the velvety texture is going to disappear. So I just went ahead and cleaned up the rest of the frame. I'm leaving the gold, and there was some white paint on them. So I'm just going to use my little scrubby brush and get those cleaned up. And I was going to paint the velvet once I messed it up, but then I realized it's peeling up, so I decided to cut out the velvet. I'm just going to use my X-Acto knife to run along this edge right here, and then it peeled up super easily. The whole time as I'm removing this velvet, I was thinking to myself, I really liked that detail. So I kept on thinking about that, but in my head, I was going to paint this little area white. So I went ahead and cleaned that area up to get the little glue residue off with some sandpaper. And then I flipped the frame over and I realized that inner section comes out. So I was like, let me see how hard it's going to be to pop out these staples. And it wasn't the most easiest thing I've done in my life, but it wasn't hard either. So I went ahead and removed that inner frame because I decided I'm going to put my own velvet strips back into it. Next, I'm going to remove those small velvet pieces that were underneath the outer frame that I couldn't get to earlier. I'm going to go ahead and remove those now, and then I'm going to give the whole piece another light sand to get rid of that glue residue. And then here we go. I ordered this pink velvet ribbon off of Amazon for Valentine's Day projects, and I just never got around to using it. So we're going to use it today. I got this off Amazon. If you're interested, it's linked down in my Amazon must-haves in my description box. So I'm going to cut these to length. And I went ahead and cut one side to a 45-degree angle, and I'm going to use spray adhesive to attach this, because if you use hot glue, you're going to be able to see that bead of glue. I'm going to spray both the wooden frame and the back of the ribbon, and you got a few seconds to work and get it positioned where you want it. I'm going to rub it in well, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the opposite side the same way. Give that other side a few minutes to dry before coming in with my X-Acto knife and cutting the other 45-degree angle. Once I get all the velvet down and in place, I'm going to trim up the corners, and then we're going to stick it back into the outer frame. I decided to use my staple gun to attach that back to the outer frame, and just look, isn't that so cute? I know it was a lot of extra work, but when you got your mind made up, you got your mind made up. And I am super glad I went through the process to re-velvet the frame. Here is the second frame all velveted up, and we're going to get that one attached back into the outer frame as well. And here is the reason why I chose to go with the pink velvet. We are going to be breaking into the new by any other name IOD transfer pad. This is from the spring release, and I haven't had a chance to play with it yet before it sold out, and now I have it back in stock, so I had to grab me one too. I picked out a few different elements that I'm going to create my own artwork for these frames. I'm going to be using this homemade paper that I get either off of Temu or Amazon. I'm sure either companies have it. And I'm going to start figuring out placement for my artwork. Once I get that figured out, we're going to start transferring the bottom design first. If you're layering, you need to do your bottom design first. I'm layering a little bit here, but not much. When transferring to this homemade paper, the technique is do not rub too hard, or it will not work. You got to rub very, very softly, or the transfer will like stick to the paper and nothing, it will like peel a section of the paper up, if that makes sense. So I kind of stuck my hand behind the transfer protecting sheet, and that helped a lot. Lift and rub, lift and rub. And here is our first piece laid down. Look, isn't it just gorgeous? This excites me. Don't it excite y'all? I know it does, because y'all are my people. The things that excite me excites y'all, and that's the reason why I love doing this YouTube thing, because I don't have anyone in my life that's as passionate about these kind of things as y'all are. Ooh, I got a little sentimental there, didn't I? Either way, we're moving on. We got this first artwork done. I love the way it looks. I love that little label detail I added. And we're going to start by putting the glass back into our frame, our artwork, and then I'm going to put the cardboard backer piece Then we're going to push down those staples, and then this one is done. And let's move on to our next frame. I did the same exact thing for our second frame. I grabbed a larger design and several smaller pieces that I could create my own artwork with, and we're going to transfer them the exact same way. I did not seal up this paper since I'm putting the glass back in the frame, but even if I didn't use the glass, it's fine. I probably wouldn't seal it either way since it's on paper. If it was on a piece of like MDF or plywood, yes, I would seal it then. I've started signing the back of my frames before covering them. I think that's a cute touch. I'm looking into getting a stamp possibly, but now let's clean up this back and make it nice and professional. I ran a bead of hot glue around the edges, and I'm using a piece of contractor's paper to cover up the back. I'm going to use a ruler and my X-Acto knife to cut off any excess paper right there at the edge. I decided to do it this way so I didn't risk sanding any of the gold paint off. Other than that, this project is done. I did add a little bit of velvet ribbon to the top, and I'm sorry about the pictures with taking the final shots with the glass in it. It's just hard with the lighting. Either way, these are so cute. I'm gonna price them for $23 a piece. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this project. I love this transfer book. And that is all I have for you today, my friends. I really hope you enjoyed these spring projects. Y'all let me know which is your favorite down below. I wanted to show some quick pictures of some friends that visited me at my booth at Coppermill Mercantile. It is so awesome to meet y'all in person, and if you ever plan to visit my booth location, give me 24-hour notice and I will try my best to meet you there because I thoroughly enjoy meeting y'all. Thank you for spending your time with me today. If you are in need of any milk paint or any of the IOD spring release products, head over to my website. I appreciate y'all's support, and I'll talk to you in the comments. Bye.